Hello, everybody. My name is Drew Dosek, and welcome to Trading the Close. Today, we saw the markets just gradually incline, just drift higher on the charts. Really wasn't a lot of volatility today. We're going to look at the VIX later today, too, just to highlight really where we are on the volatility indexes. It's really gone full circle this year already. All right, but first up, let's get into the market summary. You see here, we've got the Dow Jones up 0.55%, NASDAQ's up 0.86%, S&P 500 up 0.6%, U.S. oil is also up 0.2%, gold up 0.39%, and Bitcoin's up 2.46%, putting in a nice breakout right now. We'll take a look at that chart, but basically, hey, look, everything's green. Very nice on the charts there for the markets. But here, flipping over to the heat map, we see there's still some red, but that red is very minimal. As you see here, there's not really anything moving outside of 2%. We have, as far as down, we have Tesla down 0.54%, Coke's down 0.95%, T-Mobile's down 1.61%. United Healthcare actually saw a little bit of a dip, touching that $300 price range, down 1.85%. But then we have Microsoft, Meta, Google all up over 1%, NVIDIA 1.69, Apple 0.52, and AVGO topping it off there at 2.24%, pushing to brand new all-time highs. Nice move for AVGO. So just jump into the S&P 500. And as we've discussed over the last several weeks, we are really right into the area of resistance. We've been highlighting this area on the charts, whether it's through this trend line or also this inclining parallel channel. There's really not much more room for the S&P 500 to go. As we've already tagged the resistance, we could potentially move up a little bit more up here into this bottom portion of the parallel, right around 63.46. I could certainly see that happening. However, we're really extended. It's ideal in essence for a little bit of a pullback. If I flip over to the weekly chart and also turn on the RSI at the bottom of the screen, you can see we're at 62.96. We still could go up and tag that 70. That's a possibility. And even if we do that, that doesn't mean that that's the top. We see here we've poked above that 70 area for some time in the past. But this rapid recovery, it makes sense if we do tag this 70 and then start selling off. So we'll see if we do accomplish that on the SPX. Next up, the Qs also right here, right into resistance. Now, this trend line has been pierced and violated in the past, so that very well could happen on this attempt too. But this is an extended move, and this is going to sound like a broken record, but this is a vertical move on the chart of the QQQ. And much like what we saw here, we saw a vertical move, we saw a little bit of pausing, and then we had a breakout and then a big sell-off. So that may end up happening here too. Notice we don't have as clean consolidation over here on the charts, but prices stayed in this range in the last 4 days. We'll see if that's enough to give it momentum to push above this trend line, and then a potential rollover after that and a little bit of a sell-off. Now, keep in mind, we're in the summer, so unless we have some big news developing, whether that's just deals that don't go well with tariffs or something unforeseen, it's unlikely to have a big sell-off since we have summertime lighter volume situation. Next up, the SMH. Now, here's something that really I'm honing in on today. As you notice here, and we've been talking about this too, we're running into the very end of this wedge pattern here on the daily chart of SMH. Now, the semis typically lead the way, and you may ask, what does that mean? Well, when the semis are leading, usually in the wake, it pulls along the rest of the markets. Same thing's true with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Oftentimes, both semiconductors and cryptocurrency, as far as Bitcoin, can be leading indicators. If Bitcoin starts selling off and the semis start selling off and the rest of the markets haven't done so yet, they're likely to start turning and selling off. So right now we have the semis right into resistance, right in this wedge, back to the charts. You see right here, this price action moving right in here. There's really no more room to go unless we gap up and move higher. Now, we were very close to making a topping tail today, but have not yet accomplished that. However, this is a narrow body bar that is signifying there should be change in more momentum as there's equal buyers and sellers right here. It's almost like a fork in the road. Which way is price action going to go? With this extended move, the probabilities point towards a move down from this area, but we'll see if we gap above and then just continue buying. Euphoria can last longer than anticipated. Next up, IWM. IWM is poking through this next resistance trend line. We've been watching this for quite a while. Break out here, come back down, and now finally made a nice push to break out above this declining trend line. And really beyond that, now we're talking about resistance at 229. And then next step is the all-time highs. So this is a great move for the small cap stocks. And this makes sense, right? The rest of the markets were going. The small caps are usually one of the last to get going and moving and following in that direction. We'll see if this momentum continues. However, as you see here down on the daily chart, we are pushing overbought territory now on the IWM. One thing we want to see, though, is have a push up tomorrow and confirm above this candle. That will then give more probabilities and staying power for this move rather than a rejection and pull back down here to support at 211.15. So it all really depends on tomorrow's price action, where we close, which will guide us with the probabilities on further move up or move down first before we start considering the next move on the chart. Next up, Bitcoin. Look at this. This is an awesome move here on Bitcoin, folks. We were talking about this yesterday, how there's an inverse head and shoulders pattern. And this is more or less bullish consolidation, but could be considered a small shoulder on the charts. But today, clearly, breaking above, moving nicely up, currently trading around 111,000, almost 112,000 on Bitcoin. Next resistance is going to be right up here, 113,000, followed by 118, and then the measured move up here at $121,000. But first steps first, we're going to need to confirm this breakout. So tomorrow, watch price action, and especially watch it at 8 o'clock at night tomorrow, where price closes. If we close above this candle, probabilities shift towards a move up. If we close within that candle, it's still not a confirmed breakout, and then we'll have to wait, kick the can into the next day. But regardless, fantastic move here on Bitcoin. We've been highlighting this potentially happening because of this bullish consolidation. We really didn't see a good rejection when price came into this line. It was only one day of selling, and then price continued to chop sideways before breaking out. Great chart there on Bitcoin. Next up, gold. We see gold here had a positive day today. However, it's still trading within the price range of yesterday's action. So not much new to report here on gold. Support area for it at 32.42. We still do have a potential chance for a move up here to 3,600, but it is getting slimmer and slimmer as the economic push in the markets are really taking the eyes and attraction off of gold and back into AI plays and semiconductor plays, etc. Next up, we've got silver. Silver here, you see, still chopping around. We did have a decent drop today, but I'll direct your attention back to the weekly chart. This is all bullish consolidation, looking for a potential move higher up here to the 38.97 area. That's still my target. Support at 34.86. Any pull back down to this area without breaking it is a buying opportunity for that move up to 38.97. Next up, U.S. oil continues to push up ever so slightly, a little bit higher. U.S. oil's first resistance area is going to be basically right here at $70 at this declining trend line that you see here on the chart. All in all, still bearish consolidation. So the likelihood, even if it tags this, is that price action on U.S. oil should start trickling down lower, eventually tagging 63.86, and then these trend lines that you see here on the chart. One is 62.28, and the other one in the $60.54 range. Next up, nat gas. Nat gas saw a decent sell today. That was to be expected as we were talking about bearish consolidation in this area, and with price now trading beneath this declining trend line. We see price support right here at $3.13, but I really do like, since we got so close to that today and bounced up a little bit, creating this wick, I do like also this inclining trend line. And it almost looks horizontal, but it's slightly inclining. The value of that basically is going to be right at $3.01. Next up, we got the VIX. Now, this is important to understand, too, as what I was talking about earlier, where we didn't really have a lot of volatility today. And the markets are really kind of drifting higher in one direction. And a couple stocks are making good moves, and we'll get into a couple of those later. But there's really not any big moves. But consider this, too. We're coming off a holiday week. This is summertime, typically lighter volume, and we're right in between earnings season. Earnings are about to kick off again. We've got Delta Airlines coming up this week. We'll get into that chart tomorrow, but that volatility should start coming back. And you can see displayed right here on this chart, we've got the VIX, which is the volatility index for the S&P 500 on the daily time frame, currently priced at $15.87. Just follow this red line all the way over. And you see last time price was at this level was February 21st. If you remember that also, if I go over to S&P 500 and we flip back to the daily time frame, look where February 21st was, right here. So we've now gone full circle, just like we have here on this chart of the S&P 500 with the volatility. We have now gone from extreme low volatility all the way up to the very high end of volatility at the lows that were placed on the S&P 500 at the beginning of April. And now we've retreated all the way back down here. What an amazing cycle this has been so far to make that full return back to the low volatility stage that we were in prior to the big dip. So will this ignite new volatility? It likely will. With price coming down so low, it's not a bad idea to start picking up some VIX, as this price is certainly attractive from the history, as you see here on the chart of the VIX. Next up, we've got GEV. Now, we talked about this yesterday, but I wanted to show you something else that we found today in the charts. And Gareth pointed it out to me. I am attracted to measured moves, as you've heard me talk about them many, many times. But you see here, just for the daily price action, we're making a daily doji candle today on GEV. Like I mentioned before, that doji can imply indecision. There's equal buyers and sellers. So there's a lot of sellers out there trying to take profits on GEV while the price is up as high as it is. Now, other thing to consider, we've got trend lines that prices tried to bump into is getting rejected. We've broken out above this parallel. So GEV is going through a lot of effort to continue moving higher, especially here on the chart where it's got a lot of resistance. Now, it could always go higher. We see this next area of resistance up here, basically right around 565 on the charts. But one thing I want to show you that's likely going to prevent that from happening, markets like to often repeat themselves. And you can see what I did. I took a measured move from what had happened back here from August 5th in 2024 all the way up here into January 23rd's high pivot. This measured move, if I bring this over, look at this, folks. This is like magic. You can see I drug that over to the pivot low here on April 4th. And notice where the high end of this measured move is. It's right up here, about $550 on GEV. So that tells me we still could trail this trend line or even poke above it slightly, but we're not that far away from tagging this measured move from the very beginning over here on this chart all the way to the end. We have two identical moves that have occurred on GEV. So what's the likely scenario? Look at this move. Now, I don't think we're going to fall this much on GEV, but you notice GEV fell about 42% after the first measured move. So we're due for some sort of pullback, some sort of profit taking on the chart of GEV. Truly remarkable move here on that chart. Next up, we've got AVGO. AVGO did, again today, make another new all-time highs. This chart is incredible. Now, it did have some difficulties earlier on in the day. As we see here, the first 10-minute candle and second 10-minute candle ripped higher, but then a lot of sellers stepped up to the plate and really started taking profit. This was over an hour of selling pressure, reducing price on AVGO nearly 2%, down 1.8%. Pretty big intraday sell-off, but then the rapid recovery and bullish consolidation. So we see here in the summer, people are eager to buy the dips. There's less volume. There's less volatility because there's less volume. So that allows the stocks to start floating right back up. Ultimately, though, AVGO is into a lot of resistance, just like we've seen in GEV and some of these other charts with the SPY or SPX and QQQ. They're all right up here into resistance. Now, AVGO can go slightly higher. As we see from this longer term trend line, it's strung out all the way through this pivot and extends just above price action today. So we're looking at roughly around 286 as the very next area of resistance, which isn't that far. So if we're going to exhaust energy to get through this trend line, then AVGO is already going to be tired by the time it hits, and the likelihood of a pullback increases even more the higher AVGO goes on this chart. Next up, Bittensor. You can see here Bittensor. This is a cryptocurrency, TAOUSDT, displayed here on the daily time frame on this chart. Now, price action has, over the past couple months, really been kind of tailing off sideways. And really, this is all still bullish consolidation. Now, it's not, I would have preferred if we would have stayed in this range rather than this most recent dip below this pivot low, but this is all still bullish consolidation for a move up. But most specifically and more recently in time, we see here with this pivot low, Nice move up and bullish consolidation here. And now finally today, we are breaking above this declining trend line where price has been held over the past couple weeks of trading. Nice breakout move here on Tau. We'll see if this is confirmed tomorrow. Watch tomorrow at 8 o'clock. If it is confirmed, the likelihood of Tau moving up to this next resistance trend line increases exponentially, and we're looking at a potential move of about 20 to 22% up to that trend line, depending upon how long it takes to get there. But there should be good potential for gains there on Tau. Next up, we've got Alibaba. Now, this is another great opportunity. Consider this as far as this stock is like the Amazon over there in Asia, right? And Amazon is trading much higher on its charts than Baba. And we see this fall that's been happening on Baba ever since the pivot that was made here in the middle of May. We've dropped nearly straight down on the charts. Today, piercing and closing beneath a support area of $104.03. Well, if I scroll back further on the chart, we see here there's another trend line coming up down just under $100 at $90.52. This zone for Alibaba will be a great accumulation area for a replay and move higher on this chart. Even though it did break this declining trend line, what typically happens, price likes to go up and retest that trend line. So buying here for that move could be a play, or even waiting further down, which would be more conservative to allow yourself more room to run for that eventual bounce up on the charts there of Alibaba. Next up, we've got LYFT. Now, LYFT, as you see, had a nice down day today, down 4.8%. But I wanted to show you this pattern that's developing on the chart. Notice this inclining trend line. It's only been tagged now twice. All right, so the third hits are typically the strongest. It doesn't always occur that way, but most generally, 80-90% of the time, they're the strongest. So if price tomorrow comes down into this trend line right around 1550, it should yield a decent bounce up to attack this resistance trend line here at 1678. Now also notice we've hit this trend line once, twice, 3 times, and now this will be the 4th attempt to go up and hit this trend line. Each attempt weakens the trend line further, adding to the probabilities of a breakthrough. So this is very interesting, especially because of the automated driving that's really been forgotten about over the last week or two. But in the last month, Tesla was rolling out brand new automatic driving with the robo-taxis. Uber's doing the same thing. And then we also have, we have a ton of different companies that are pushing through and getting a lot of traction with this new technology. So then if I scroll back out on the chart of LYFT, look where we are. We're way down at the bottom of the chart of LYFT. So this potential breakout opportunity for me is a great play for potentially going long and capitalizing on this new automated driving craze that is eventually going to hit and be good technology once everything, all the kinks are worked out in those systems. But still, regardless, good opportunity right here for LYFT for potential near and midterm play long. Next up, we've got Plug. Now, Plug, a fantastic move today, up 25%. Now, Plug did secure a contract for liquefied natural gas for the next 5 years. So they're going to have enough to go through. All right. So they secured all of their fuel. And so the likelihood and investors obviously are really liking this information. Plug was down in the dirt down here, almost going to be delisted. There was talks about that on the NASDAQ, that this stock may end up going away, but the good news has started to roll in and price continues moving higher. Next resistance on the chart is going to be $1.97. Now I anticipate this area should provide good resistance and a pullback down here to the $1.41 support range. That would be a good buying opportunity for another reattack. As again, this is the first, second, it will be the third time this trend line gets hit. Wait for a pullback, then buy on that next opportunity for attacking that trend line when it's weaker, thus putting probabilities on your side for that trend line to be broken and that rally to continue. All right, guys, a lot of information there. Good education, too, watching the measured moves, understanding how breakouts occur. I love delivering these things to you, especially on live charts when they happen day to day. Hope you guys got some great info. Thanks for tuning in. I look forward to being back here tomorrow. Until then, have a great day, folks.